I was thrilled by the pick. My desire to start and finish with the same organization may not be a reality.
Touchdown! Oh my goodness! A thing of beauty! Gallant effort by the green and gold just wasn't good enough.
I'm not going to get into the specifics again. Yeah, we've been able to create room with others.
There's a lot of unknowns going into this offseason now.
Aaron Rodgers has called some of those unknowns a beautiful mystery, or maybe it's just a mystery, depending on who you ask. We welcome you to NFL Live. You see him right there, Field Yates, Mina Kimes, and Jeff Saturday joining us today. We're going to talk about Aaron Rodgers and hear from him in just a minute. Also coming later, the reason why wide receivers are wary about playing in the Ravens offense. But we begin with Green Bay. And Aaron Rodgers still doesn't have a contract extension done with the Packers, and that means the door's open for him to leave after next season. It seems Rodgers himself is prying that door open anyway, but the Packers continue to avoid talking about him or an extension despite the MVP performance last season. Here's Rodgers with SportsCenter's Kenny Mayne earlier today.
Do you want to finish your career there? Do you want to be a lifer in Green Bay? I mean, it's kind of been your team so far.
Yeah, so far it's definitely been my team. I said last year I didn't know if that was actually possible to be able to finish there. I still feel like that's kind of where we're at. I mean, I don't know that a lot of that's in my hands, but I guess we'll kind of see as we go.
Well, when you say things like that, then he just said it's not in his hands. He might be right. Like things get misinterpreted. Wouldn't you like to just proclaim, I'm there, I'm your guy. I want to keep throwing for Lombardi Avenue all day.
Ken, you and I both know that's not how it works.
No. Like Russell Wilson. He just answered a question.
Yeah. I'm not, necessarily going to approach it like how some of that stuff came out. But look, like I said last year, there's things that are just out of my control. The team has obviously the power to do what they want. My job is just to play as well as I can. I think there may have been, ideas about what certain things meant in the last year. I just focused on my play, went out and played really well, won MVP, and I've been having a hell of an offseason. So that's kind of what's been going on with me.
Woo, there's a lot there. Okay, Mina, there was a time where Rodgers regularly said, "Go Pack, go" in these interviews. What do you think he wants?
Yeah, and also, Laura, a few years ago, I do remember him saying in interviews he wanted to retire a Packer. Now, I don't know what Aaron wants based on that interview. I don't think he gives a definitive answer very purposefully. But we do know what Green Bay wants. We know what they wanted when they signaled a year ago that they were seeing the end of the road with Rodgers by taking Jordan Love in the draft. There's just no other way to interpret that. And we know what they want now because they have not done everything possible to maximize this roster and go all in on Rodgers in the way that we've seen other teams with older quarterbacks like the New Orleans Saints do with cap gymnastics. Doing so would require them to restructure his contract and commit to him long term. Look, there is no way the Packers saw last season, the MVP season from Rodgers coming. Because if they did see it coming, they would not have drafted Jordan Love. Anyone who tells you that is lying or lying to themselves. And at this point, given the lack of activity in terms of restructuring on both sides and the lack of commitment on both sides, I don't see how we can look at this as headed towards anything but a divorce in the near term.
Yeah, I mean, I agree on that last line there, specifically about an eventual divorce from Aaron Rodgers. And what we've gotten ourselves into now is trying to read between the line of ambiguous quotes from Rodgers and non-quotes from the Packers. So it's left us to play a little bit of a guessing game here, but there are some facts that can lead us to conclusions that I think are reasonable to expect to happen at some point. As you mentioned, he was a first-round pick last year, coming off of an NFC Championship game appearance on a quarterback. You also mentioned they haven't touched the contract. They have touched plenty of contracts this offseason. Zadarius Smith, Mason Crosby, Billy Turner amongst them. to push money into the future in 2022. The reason why that's notable is that if the Packers were to have done the same with Aaron Rodgers, it would have made their exit strategy, if they are inclined to move on from Aaron Rodgers in 2022, a more difficult path to navigate. And one thing that I think is fair to wonder is that if you're Aaron Rodgers, an incredible Hall of Fame quarterback who brought another Super Bowl, has brought multiple MVPs to Green Bay, are you going to want to, if you are eventually going to have to play elsewhere besides Green Bay, are you going to want it to be when the Packers tell you it's time to go because they're ready to turn the page onto Jordan Love? Or might you be more inclined to force the issue yourself and say, you know what? I'm too darn good to have to worry about being a year-to-year quarterback. I know he wants assurances, as Rob Dabowski has reported this offseason, our Packers reporter, as it pertains to his contract. But at some point, these non-answers and these non-definitive answers make me think more and more that that divorce is coming sooner rather than later.
Listen, I think Aaron Rodgers made it very clear what he wants in his interview. He wants to be a Green Bay Packer. When you look at if they're going to give messages through the media, he's giving the same message right back, Field. He's, hey, man, the team is in full control, and they are. Here's what he wants. He wants the team to eat crow. Hey, we drafted a guy in the first round to replace you. We messed up. We're going to give you an extension. Jordan Love's going to sit the bench the rest of this rookie contract, move on somewhere else, or we'll find a way to trade him. But ultimately, we have to say that we made a bonehead decision. We could have given you someone to help you and possibly win a Super Bowl last year. Instead, we got to the championship game and lost. So ultimately, he does want to be in Green Bay. I see it completely different than you guys. I think that's where he wants to be. He understands this team is right to win. They're going to get a receiver. They have a very good offensive line. They can continue to help him. To go somewhere else and start over is not what every guy wants to do. But the problem is the Packers have to admit the mistake. And until they do, by giving him an extension and doing what he wants, he's going to keep giving these answers. The guy's been around the game way too long to try to play these games like what Kenny was trying to do. He's not Russell Wilson, man. The guy's an MVP. He's been in Green Bay. He understands how to put pressure on the Packers through their own fan base. I think he's playing it the way he should.
Well, maybe I'm just pettier, have more experience in putting pressure on people. But if I was Aaron and I really wanted to push it with Green Bay, he's already made them eat crow, Jeff, by the way, with his play last season. I would come out and say, hey, I'd love to redo my deal, open up some cap space so we can go out and win a Super Bowl. And then people would look towards the Packers and say, all right, your Hall of Fame quarterback wants to do it. But he didn't say that, and I do think it's telling that he hasn't committed to the team long term.
Yeah, Mina, you really do bring the pressure. Watch out, people. You never know what she's going to do. Also, later on, we're talking more Packers, and specifically about next year. Is it their last chance to win a Super Bowl? Don't miss that. All right, the week of big-time pro days continues with Oregon left tackle Penei Sewell's showcase today in Eugene. You see him right there, 30 reps on the bench press. That's all he's done so far, so we'll keep you updated on that. Bengals fans may be happy to know their head coach, Zach Taylor, and GM Duke Tobin were in attendance. Also, the Vikings and Packers had their GMs there. Scouts Inc. has Sewell listed as the third best overall prospect in